over 60% of millennial and Gen Z have participated in the Recommerce market in some shape or form, whether that resale, renting, or repair. The easiest way is probably to step back and look at where you create the most negative impact, and then start looking at how do you reduce all of those footprints. Think about the future, not just today. Like think beyond things beyond the bottom line.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode in Road Ahead Talks. It's my great privilege and honor to invite our guest today, Shanya, who is founder and CEO of an amazing startup called Rntr. This is changing the way shoppers purchase their fashion requirements, and we are going to learn a lot about the e-commerce market and Australian fashion market through Shanya today. Welcome to the show, Shanya.
Thank you so much for having me. Before we kick on starting, my name is Shanya.
Shanya.
Yeah, Shanya. That's all
Shanya.
right.
Okay, I
Um,
will be careful with that.
yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I love Shania Twang. I mean, she's famous. Like, I'll take the name. Yeah.
All right. So, Shanya, tell us how it all got started.
Um, it started from so I work in the fashion industry for a really long time, probably maybe 15, 20 years now. And I have a really deep personal relationship with the fashion industry. I grew up in Thailand, which I'm not sure if it's kind of similar culture in India, but we have a certain set of standard of what beauty look like. And when I was growing up, I didn't fit the beauty standard. Basically, I'm constantly being told that I need to get plastic surgery or I need to lose weight. My skin needs to be lighter. I don't know. Like I'm sure, look, like you'll have the beauty standard if you ask your sister, your wife, or yeah, someone will tell you we will all have the same issue. Um, so I, at one point in high school, I then realized that I don't really want to keep hearing those comments anymore. Because at one point, like I'm gonna start believing it that I'm not good enough. So I wanted to change conversation. So then I start dressing really well, start dressing really loud, really creative, and the conversation changed. It became about what I'm wearing rather than what I look like or how dark my skin is, all of these things. So I, since a young age, I developed that personal relationship with clothing and the fashion industry because I use it as my almost like my armor. It's become my second skin where it empower me to be whoever I need to be. So I feel really good about myself. I feel confident because when people commenting on my clothes, I can change it tomorrow. It doesn't even really matter. So fast forward for when I graduate from Thailand, I moved to Melbourne in Australia. And then I started working in the fashion industry around 2009. I started off as a designer. I had my own brand and was making clothes. Like I have a really good connection with the manufacturers in Thailand, and I was doing that for a while. In 2013, I moved to become stylist, and this is probably like part of my life where I was like super enjoying it. It's like I love being personal stylist, best job in the world. You spend someone else's money all day long. And in 2015, I came across a documentary called True Cost. And I don't know if you ever came across it before, but highly recommend it. It's changed a lot of people's lives, actually. So I came home one night with a bottle of wine on Friday, and I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch a fashion documentary because I'm fancy. And I sat down and watched True Cause. Didn't really know what it was going to be about, but then it opened my eye to see the other side of the fashion industry, where it's not so glamorous. So for me, at that moment, I realized that while I'm making women on this side of the world feel really good about themselves in that short 2 to 4 hours, I'm actually exploring women on the other side of the world who doesn't really have a say. not to mention the negative impact, the footprints that the fashion industry is leaving on this earth. So suddenly, something that I used to use to empower me to, feel really good about myself, I'm no longer comfortable in it. And I think when you feel like that, then you have a choice whether do you want to continue doing what you love, you get paid well, and you're really good at it, hoping someone else will fix the problem, or do you want to start becoming part of the solution? And then I realized that I was no longer comfortable in my second skin. I had to do something about it. So I've launched my first startup in 2016. The idea came around 16, and Rntr is essentially my third iteration of what the first product was. So, and yeah, here we are today.
Wow, what a transformation. You're so true. We women, especially, they use fashion sense as a way for expressing themselves.
Mm,
And of course, the it does have the other side of the coin also, where it is having an impact on the sustainability side. And I think you made a shift from just being a consumer to more environmentally conscious. So was there something about the Australian fashion market, which, or the economy you noticed around yourself, which brought about this transformation in your view of the world?
mm, I think Australia is interesting one, right? Because it is a young country,
Hmm.
but also quite a wealthy one. So it's kind of like it's always a good testing ground for any startup. It's just kind of like you've got consumer that have ability to spend. You've got some great economy, and a few things is probably like too expensive, like labor costs, all of these things. So there's like, yeah, pros and cons. But I think it was because the country has a really strong economy and it's good foundation. Therefore, majority of the people of the citizen were able to actually think beyond themselves and move on to that sustainability and think about the planet. I always talk about how, because I grew up in Thailand, right, until my early 20s before I moved here. So I've seen, like when you can't even think past about what you're going to put on the table for dinner for your kid tonight, you don't have room to think about sustainability.
True.
You're just done. It's just not your priority. So when you're in the country where everybody has food. Well, I can't say everybody, but like 90% of the people will always guarantee to have food every night, right? And then like you've got support from the government. You've got a strong foundation. So I think majority of the people are talking about it. They're being conscious minded. So it makes me almost like adapted into that culture as well. So then you kind of see that, all right, well, consumer mindset has already shifted. The e-commerce market is growing. So what I'm seeing is just an opportunity to actually make it work and become a solution on a larger scale.
Now, for our listeners, can you explain a little bit more about what is Recommerce?
Yeah.
Some might be coming across this word for the first time.
Yeah. It is quite a new word, and I don't know whether it's a word yet, but I'm using it essentially. So, re-commerce is essentially the economy of secondary product.
Mhm.
Anything that passed the first purchase and then it moves into the economy of secondary. So that's including rental, resale, and repair, recycle, upcycle, all of these things. We call it re-commerce. So essentially, that's just not brand new.
Yeah, I've also come across this term pre-loved. Is it same as pre-loved products?
It is. It's essentially the same thing. We call it many name. I think pre-love is usually refer to a particular item, right? And that just mean that like it was loved by someone, and then now it's passing on to someone else. When I use the e-commerce, it's because I wanted to refer it as more like an economy, so then people can see it and on a larger scale, essentially.
So in any commerce, you will require some buyers and you will require some sellers. Now, the market condition that you have come across in Australia, for this re-commerce thing to really flourish, you require both types of customers: customers who are interested in selling or renting, and people who are interested in renting or purchasing re-commerce products. What has been your experience here with both these
Mm.
types of communities of customers?
Um, Great questions. Your, I think the consumer mindset to participate in also within the e-commerce, you might break them down into like three different things, right? For us, we look after rental, resale, and repair.
Mm-hmm.
So resale is probably the economy where people are most familiar with. Buying items secondhand is probably like the biggest economy out of the e-commerce. And then the second from that would be rental, where people will go and rent particular thing. 80% is still gonna be special occasion, like a gown or a suit, because those are the things that you probably will use it once or twice. And repair, I think this generation are starting to be more aware of things that like, okay, repairing rather than buying new, but it is still quite young. So I think over 60% of millennial and Gen Z have participated in the e-commerce market in some shape or form, whether that resale, renting, or repair.
Wow,
Over
60%
60%.
is a fantastic number.
That's quite amazing, right? But maybe
Yeah.
once or twice, and they may have become, they may have been a renter, or they may have been a seller or buyer through Facebook Marketplace or all of these things. So consumers are familiar with the concept. Now, our job is to make sure that brands can participate in this economy. So as much as it's like 60% of people are quite familiar with it, we still got like education piece to do on the industry side, which is the brand, because brand has never really participated in this economy directly. For them, it's about every year is about buying new, producing new, buy new, and then sell something new. So for them is, to produce more to sell more. They never really look at the economy where how can I actually make more money from the item that I have already produced it once? Can I actually get more return out of this item beyond just selling it one time? Because once you sell it once, people are reselling it multiple times, but you're completely cut off from that economy because you're not participating in it. So our job, like Rentr launched in 2021. So we're quite young. We're like 3 years old. So there's still a lot of education that we need to do for industry, getting brand to understand that this is a massive opportunity for you. It's growing with or without brand. You
Yeah.
might as well just come in and tap into it. We still have consumer behavior change that we need to do as well. So, like 50% of our end user, the customer that rented directly from the brand, actually have never rented anywhere else before. So they don't trust the current system. But as soon as their favorite brands actually offering this directly on the website, then they jump in and they do it because they feel like, okay, well, the brand is now embracing it and I can trust the quality.
So customers who start engaging with renter, uh, or in general, people who start engaging in re-commerce activities, especially on the buying side, do they have a high repeat rate? Do they
They do actually.
once they start experiencing consuming these rental products or refurbished products or repaired products, do they become regular frequent visitors?
Yeah, some customer come back, 4 to 6 times a year. So essentially, instead of selling something to them once, you actually get them to come back and interact with you 4 to 6 times a year.
4 to 6 times, that's fantastic. That's almost I would say around 20 to 30% of their entire purchase of fashion items would now comprise of this particular segment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're starting to see more and more of that.
Now, what can you tell us about the kinds of customers who are more likely to adopt participation in Recommerce, especially as consumers. Uh,
Yeah.
you did mention many of these possibly are Gen Zs or millennials. What else can you tell about these customers?
Mm, it is a little bit hard for us at the moment because we're software, right? So we're seeing customers that are coming for particular brand. So I think for us, like we have the stat and like I can tell you that roughly majority of our customer right now is sitting between 25 to like 38, and they mostly women, female.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's purely also because of the brands that we have with us, because of the
Mm-hmm.
offer. So if we about to launch a couple of menswear in for resale and rental in the world this year, this quarter. So I think we're gonna start to see a mix of consumer coming through,
Okay.
and then we're launching a few bigger brand that's like for tailored for like a younger market. So I think we're gonna start to see more Gen Z coming through as well. So in in the global market, you kind of know that they already participating, but for us as a company, yeah, majority of our customers are mainly just like 25 and 30, yeah, 25 to 38 at the moment.
Got it. So 25 to 38, that's the age segment, and uh, it's split between men and women, but more focused towards women. Um,
Yeah, we all it's all women at the moment, but every week we
all
get, yeah, every week we get men's emailing us and go, "Hey, my partner just rented this dress for the wedding. I'm also going to the same wedding. Can I rent a suit?" And we kind of like, well, we'll pass this on to a brand that like, like we're telling brands that there's a massive opportunity, you should do it. But yeah, I think it takes brands a while to understand how they can be part of it.
Now, tell us also about how technology and artificial intelligence capabilities are helping you expand the e-commerce business.
Um, well, the technology itself is basically enabling brands to be able to offer it without the complication, essentially, like without actually having to employ more staff or actually like creating a completely new website for it or anything. We are using an AI to help improve almost like the operation and the back end, which is super exciting. Like for example, like particular brands will have a minimum of 500 or 1,000 item per month sitting in their warehouse that came back from repair, came back from return, and all these things that they essentially can be moved into pre-love. But the process of like processing all those items, which is like repair and then clean it and then like photograph it and then uploading into each one listing, it's like it takes a lot of work.
Yes.
So essentially, what we're doing in now is like we're developing an AI to actually go in and help create and automate a lot of those process to make sure that we have like as very little human touch as
Mm-hmm.
possible. Because
Mm-hmm.
like for example, if you think about it, photograph, right? Let's say you create a whole collection and
Mm-hmm.
you take a photograph like a brand shoot, and they're usually quite expensive. But
Right.
when you take a photograph of one item, you're selling hundreds of them, hundreds of the same item. So then
Right.
that photograph is kind of like break down into those hundreds of item, which is fine, right? But then when you talk about pre-love, it's
Correct.
just come in one item. So when you take a
Right.
photo of it, if you spend so much time on it, then there's no margin left in that particular
True.
item. So yeah, all of this like basically we all of the operation behind the scene to make sure that we can scale this up on a larger scale. We use AI to automate all the listing, use AI to automate all the photograph. So yeah,
So basically, AI is helping you with your listing part and the photography part, primarily because the underlying volume of inventories would be very small. So if you go for original photo shoots, it's going to be very costly. And if
yeah,
you try to write very customized content, again, it's going to be very costly. However, you're using technology to fill up those gaps and um, are able to get a strong footing in the e-commerce through that. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, see, when you're planning your inventories, um, you need to be able to make sense of customers' preferences, customer behavior, what items customers are looking to buy. How do you get estimates of what customers are more likely to purchase and what kind of inventory you should bring more of? And I'm also trying to think about the challenges you will face here, because items that you might have sold or rented previous month or last year, you may not have access to those inventories anymore. So how do you figure out which products, how much inventories you should plan for?
Um, so for us at the moment, the way like so we kind of know, so first of all, if we start from rental, right? We know that your best selling is going to be your best renting.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity for brand is essentially put a whole set aside just for renting. So whatever so as soon as it's sold out, you'll get rental you'll get rental order growing. And then essentially because brand has a database of who purchased what item. So they also have a full control of, okay, if you know that this item has done well, it's sold out, and then you can't get it made quickly enough, or technically you shouldn't, then in a couple months' time, you can essentially email all of those set of customer and go, hey, do you want to resell it back to the van? Or do you want to
Mm-hmm.
resell it back to the customer? So we can kind of almost manipulate the inventory in a way that we know we base on what's best selling, and then also certain items that that is high price point because of material or the way that it was made and stuff. So you know that those items most likely not going to sell out because people can't reach that price point, but people can have access to it through renting. So I guess you kind of want to go for the inventory that something that like it makes sense pricing wise for people to know that like, okay, well, if I'm renting it, I'm only paying 25% of it. But then that 25% is still need to cover all the operation costs, which is like cleaning, shipping, return, all of these things. Um, and yeah, because we're working directly with brands, so we can kind of almost dictate a little bit of what we should get back in the inventory. But of course, when brands open it up to consumers and just go send it back, resell whatever you need, kind of thing, then there is a little bit of risk that things that come back might not be sold again. But I think often you'll be really surprised. Like one of the brand that actually have also invested in us, they usually get like, 1,000 items sent back every month. And every time they drop, the 500 or 800 items as a pre-love, then it's usually gone within 48 hours or less than a week.
Hmm. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, you mentioned that items are usually rented at around 25% of the regular price. Is that the sweet spot? I mean, how did you arrive at that sweet spot? And I mean, how do you actually go about deciding the prices?
I think for us, first of all, there is a base cost, right? It's actually like it costs the shipping, the cleaning, the admin and return. The warehousing. There's a hard cost that
Mhm.
for every time you rent something, that's a hard cost. And then I guess because we work directly with brand, pricing, the way that we think about it is slightly different than consumer renting it to consumer. Because if you think about it, when it's peer to peer, consumer to consumer, it's a passive income. So if you purchase a dress for $500 and you want it once or twice, now you're renting it out to someone else. It doesn't even really matter to you because it's kind of like, well, I already spent that $500. I might get something back. I might not. It's okay. But then when it's business, when it's brand, if they're going to invest that inventory in this new revenue channel, it needs to make a return.
Right.
So when you say 25%, And then that 25% minus all the operation costs, brand probably ended up leaving at about maybe 13-14%. So for us, we need to make sure that every, like maybe once you rent it out twice, then it will cover the cost of the garment being made. When you rent it out 3 to 4 times, then it cover the wholesale cost. And then anything beyond four, then it's essentially just like a profit. And if you rent it out more than 6 times, then essentially you get higher return than you actually retail, like selling it on retail price. So that's kind of how we sort of look at it at the moment. um, in an ideal world, I like it to be lower than 25. Um, I don't know how I could make that happen on this side of the world, which is like in Australia, just because of the operation cost is so high.
Right.
You can't really bring it down. But I want it to be lower because I feel like you actually will get more consumer participating. Because at this point, they will look at it as just like, okay, well, if I have to pay 25% to have it for 4 days, I might as well just buy it and then resell it later and potentially get, 90% back. So I think if you, and also if you look at the example, really good example from like Europe in the UKs and stuff, their rental price is so much lower. But I'm not sure how they do it because I assume that the labor cost over there would be expensive too.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So, how do the next 2 to 5 years look for your business? And what kind of market scenarios and tailwinds in the Australian market are favorable trends for your business?
2 to 5. Yeah, hopefully I exit. I'm kidding. Yeah. I think that's a dream for everybody. No, 2 to 5 years, I think we'll be expanding into a different market. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
have a strong foothold in Australia. And then I want to tap into Asia market because I feel like it's less competitive. Whether it will be viable or not, like we need to explore it a bit further. I feel like we do, just because if you look at the almost like the Southeast Asia or even like Japan and Korea, they have a really strong, secondary market behavior already. So maybe it's a good time for us to like tap into the brand and be like, hey, start participating. Yeah. We've got actually quite a few inquiries coming from India.
Very
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, particularly for the wedding industry,
Mm-hmm.
because apparently you guys have quite a few days wedding, a minimum of like, I don't know, 3 to 7 days or something. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And the outfit required for the family is quite outrageous. So I think you already have a little bit of like a rental economies happening for all those, but
Right.
it's like almost like a hotspot, like a corner store kind of thing. So now I'm just thinking that if a particular, premium brand in India actually have a section that actually they do rent it out themselves, um, I think that could work really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. There could be wonderful opportunities for the rental business here. I mean, if I look at other industries where rentals have flourished very well, uh, taxi industry comes to my mind, where companies like Ola, Uber, they have completely changed the car ownership behavior. Now
yeah,
people find it much more convenient to rent a taxi rather than having their own car. They
yeah,
don't have to worry about having a spot for parking.
yeah,
They don't have to worry about driving on their own.
yeah,
Maybe that's one thing you can also piggyback on. People don't have to have big wardrobes in their houses because they can keep exchanging items with you.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I live in one bedroom apartment. It's like, and I'm here with my partner, and his section of a wardrobe is like this small, and my section of the wardrobe is like this. And every time I come home with a new bag, he's just like, "Where are you gonna put it?" Yeah.
All right. One question before we jump to the quick fire round. Since you started your business, what are some things that you have changed your minds on?
Mm. Oh, that's a really good question. I think a lot. Like we've changed, we've pivot. Um, one thing I definitely have changed on my own is probably maybe the way that I would like almost like any business that I want to start. I'll probably try and validate it in a different, slightly different way, and perhaps maybe as cheaply as possible. Just or like go after a really really small section of the market, and really really nail those if I can. Also, another thing is team. Have the best team. Started with I'm a solo founder. I've just made my CPO my co-founder because he's been with me from almost day one. But I would almost never start something on my own again. It's brutal. It's brutal. So yeah, I think those are kind of the few things that I kind of learn along the journey. And another thing which I don't really think I'm I'm doing it well yet is it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I sometimes need to be able to step back and like let it just grow at its own pace. I think as a founder, you constantly just kind of like you gotta go faster and faster and faster and faster. And throughout this whole journey, I probably burn out, 100 times a year. And
I
I don't
think
know.
that's the story of all the founders who are doing some groundbreaking work, because if you are getting burnt out, that means definitely something is keeping you very busy, and you're doing well.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Sam Altman, the OpenAI founder, did say that if you burn out, it means that you're doing something that's not working. Because if it is
Oh,
working, it shouldn't be too hard. And I'm like, really? Thanks for that,
really?
dude. Yeah. Uh,
All right. We'll jump. Well, thank you for sharing these amazing tips for young entrepreneurs who are looking at possibly starting their own ventures. Couple of points I can note. One is it's not a sprint; it's a marathon, and you have to be ready for a long haul. Your team matters a lot, and you have to build a strong team in the initial days so that you don't get burnt out in the process. And I think these are some amazing tips, and I hope our audience will make notes on these and follow these in their entrepreneurial journey.
yeah.
I'll jump to a rapid fire section. We have some questions that we would like you to answer quickly.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
let's
Let's
see.
do it.
If you have to predict one major trend that will define the future of fashion and retail, what would it be?
Oh, 3D printing.
3D printing, fantastic. What's one mistake retailers should stop making in today's competitive market?
Oh, keep producing the same stuff over and over again and discounting.
Are they doing excessive discounting?
Yeah, every single brand. You can like almost like every week in the calendar, there's always a sales on.
Great. I hope brands are making a note of this. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs, especially women who are starting out in the Australian market?
Um, if you want to do something, jump in and do it quick. Don't overthink it. And then once you're in, you start doing it. You'll learn really quickly if this journey is for you or not.
So be quick, don't overthink. And I think the Australian market is very favorable for young entrepreneurs like yourself. So they should take some tips from there. So thank
Yeah,
you.
but a quick note though, being a female entrepreneur, be prepared that it's harder. There's still a lot of bias. So just be prepared that you just have to do double, triple, 10 times the work in order for you to get further.
So women entrepreneurs should get ready to put in more effort because they are tested more in comparison to their male counterparts.
It's not fair, but it is what it is.
All right. What's the easiest way for retailers to start integrating sustainability into their business?
Um, I think the easiest way is probably to step back and look at where you create the most negative impact, and then start looking at how do you reduce all of those footprint. And I think the key important part is you have to start thinking about how do you actually earn more, achieve your commercial growth with less product. We're not going to have the luxury of have the raw material for us to produce at the rate that we are producing forever. So unless brands start adapting their business model, they might not be here in the future.
Possibly engaging with their customers also in the process?
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to your customer, ask them what they want.
Absolutely. And you'll be surprised. Customers might have some amazing solutions for you in the process.
Mm.
What's one piece of advice every retail leader needs to hear today?
Um, think about the future, not just today. Like think beyond things beyond the bottom line.
Think beyond bottom line. And I think you've touched upon sustainability. So have a focus on sustainability element as well. Well,
Yeah.
Shanya, thank you so much for the wonderful tips. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience would also get amazing tips from listening to this podcast. For our listeners, please do join us next time for our next talk show. And to follow us, you can click on the notify button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.